Self-acceptance unlocks abundance. Self-forgiveness unlocks abundance. If you are here watching this video, taking this material in, partially you're doing so right because you want more out of your life. You have a sense there is more available. You have what you could call a dream life, a dream vision for your life, your business, your relationships. And maybe your conditions or your circumstances suggest that those things are impossible, but something deep within you knows differently. Something deep within you absolutely knows it's possible for you. And it is. You wouldn't have the dream, you wouldn't have the desire for those things if it wasn't possible. That dream life, it asks one thing of you and one thing only. It asks you to drop the identity, like who you were taught to be, who you believe you need to be in order to get love, acceptance, safety, security. Do the inner work to remember who you truly are, accept who you truly are, even and especially the parts of you that you don't think are worthy of love, and embody that version of you. And do it over and over again. Commit to it like it's the most important thing in the world, because it is, and your life will change. All of the stuff you dream about, all of the things you really desire that lead you to watch videos like this, to do personal transformation work, to work on yourself tirelessly, all of those things are waiting for you. They're like a beacon calling you back to yourself. Not because the things themselves are that important, but because the pursuit, the following the call of those things wakes you up. It reminds you of who you are, reminds you of your oneness with God or that which created you. And that's the whole point of all this. That's the only game in town. So self-acceptance unlocks abundance. Self-forgiveness unlocks abundance. That's what we're here for. That's why I'm inspired to make this video today. Most of us walk around with such a high level of self-judgment, self-criticism, shame, guilt. We have all these different parts of ourselves that we don't want anybody to see, because we were taught a long time ago that when those parts become visible, we face rejection, failure. And when rejection and failure occur enough and over a long enough period of time, we have associated that with a loss of control, a lack of safety, and in an extreme version in the mind, death. Right? We believe our survival and our safety depends on hiding these different parts of us away. One of the mechanisms we use to do that is to just judge ourselves like crazy, just judge the shit out of ourselves, and to refuse to forgive ourselves for the mistakes that we have made. All those things can do, and all they're actually designed to do, because they are sort of programmed in there for a reason, their purpose, if we want to call it that, the intention the subconscious mind has in using those things, is to keep you locked in to your current identity, which is the one that's created your current results and creates predictability, certainty, and therefore safety. It knows if it gets you to keep thinking these things, to refuse to forgive yourself, to refuse to pardon yourself, to refuse to give yourself the grace that is yours by design and by birth, to rake yourself over the coals for all the things you think you've messed up in your life, and to continue judging the parts of yourself that you were told, probably at a very early age, are unlovable, unacceptable, just generally not cool to express. When you stay in that pattern, stay in that wave of thinking, stay in that belief system, in that program, your life can't change. You will just continue to recycle the same type of experiences, circumstances, and results. So it begs the question, right? How does self-acceptance and self-forgiveness unlock abundance? Well, because you're connected to all things. You're connected to God, spirit, source. You are connected to the source of all the things you want. That never changes. No matter what we do, no matter what we say, no matter what we choose, that connection never changes. God knows perfection, wholeness, completion. There is no way and no place that God is not whole, complete, and perfect, including in and through you. Like, that is your nature. It just is. And I'm not gonna like litigate the belief and the calculus behind all that, but I'm gonna ride for that truth always. If that's the case, so the truth over here, wholeness, completion, perfection. And then the experience you're living is flaw, shame, guilt, mistakes, wrongness that shouldn't be forgiven. Those two things don't line up. They do not match. So it's like this whole kingdom is waiting over here. It's part and parcel of who you are. It is your birthright to experience so much good. And when you refuse to see yourself differently, when you cling to this old identity that judges the crap out of yourself, that rates you over the coals for the mistakes you've made, you see those things are not a match. And when you allow yourself to have the goodness that you actually deserve, it shatters that old identity. And let's be real, part of you just doesn't want to let go of that old identity. No judgment, right? No criticism. It just feels safe. So self acceptance, to start to look at yourself differently and go, you know what? This thing I've buried within me, it's just a part of who I am. And it's okay. It was put there by God and therefore is part of God. That mistake you've made or mistakes you've made that you will not forgive, God's not holding you in that judgment. And when you believe you've done something unforgivable, and I'm not talking about like a heinous crime here, because it's not the type of stuff I'm speaking to. I'm just speaking to oftentimes fairly small mistakes, an investment that didn't go the right way, a fight with your spouse you wish you handled differently, a client interaction you think you blew, a sale you didn't make. These things that we keep returning to in our mind to continue to prove over and over and over again our wrongness. When we hold on to those things, it's a refusal to see the truth about ourselves. It's a clinging to an old identity. So self forgiveness goes, I may have made mistakes. And of course I have, because who hasn't? That does not separate me or isolate me or put me outside of the realm of provision and goodness and love and support of God. It couldn't. So when you start to forgive yourself, and you think about like the phrasing of that word or that etymology, I don't know the exact etymology, but forgive, giving for yourself, giving ahead of time for yourself. What are you giving? Grace, gratitude, love, support. Yeah, I messed up and I wish I had done that differently. Cool. Next time I have more information. Next time I have more data. I'll do that differently next time. Fantastic. When we are willing to give ourselves that, when we are willing to accept ourselves, we open the door to seeing ourselves as we really are, as God sees us, whole, complete, perfect, deserving of love, deserving of goodness. And I know this might sound like a lot of rhetoric, and you could take it in intellectually and go, yeah, okay, sounds cool. But like take this deep into your heart. Let this thing percolate through into yourselves and start opening up. You deserve love, even and especially amidst your mistakes, even and especially around the parts that you think are unlovable, unacceptable to others. The other part of self acceptance is this: most of the time, the things we refuse to accept about ourselves, that we are scared for other people to see, they are some of the deepest parts of the magic or the goodness that we have to offer the world. They're actually vital to our service, which connects to our abundance. When we go and fulfill the role we are here to fulfill, which is like just to be you, but you in your allness, in your bigness, in your fullness, not little parts of you that you judge are okay, but all of you, that is the service you were created to render, the service you were created to give. And to the degree and in the way that we give, that's how we receive. And I'm not saying you have to give enough to then deserve receiving. I just mean this thing is circular, it is cyclical. We are meant to allow God to express through us, and through that we are blessed, on and on and on. So the self acceptance, this piece is so deep. I had an experience like this recently that I won't really go into because I actually just don't think it would be that helpful. But the short version of a longer story is I was looking back the last like year of my life, And there's a part of my passion that I never thought connected to my business. I never thought connected to my service or opportunities that would come to me from it. And in fact, I felt a little embarrassed about this part because I felt like it was a juvenile thing to love, a juvenile thing to cherish. Um, when I just said, you know what, I refuse to look at it that way. I refuse to judge myself in that way and let it come forth. My life changed so dramatically. It changed financially, emotionally. I saw so many opportunities come in. And again, this is through self acceptance, through taking this part and go, you know what? I love that for a reason, even if it looks fucking stupid and silly and immature to other people. It is just part of who I am and how I am. And the second I brought that out and accepted it and started sharing it, my life and my business and my relationships changed. The last piece I want to say about this before I give you like 3, 4 really simple steps you can take to start up leveling your self-acceptance game and open the door to abundance. One of my favorite books of all time, I actually have it here next to me unintentionally, I just do, is Autobiography of a Yogi. There we go, by Paramahansa Yogananda. Fantastic book. But his guru, Sri Yukteswar, I believe he asked him a question about like, how do you know when you found God? And he said, how does he put it? I wrote it here. God is ever new joy. Ever new joy is God. This is someone who spent his entire life connecting to God, pulling the veil back to see himself in oneness with God. And his experience is God is ever new joy. So consider this. If that is the nature of God, when we judge ourselves, when we refuse to forgive ourselves, when we hold ourselves in contempt, and we hold on to our shame and our guilt, and we keep throwing it at ourselves, is that consistent? Is that in alignment with the nature of God, with the nature of ever new joy? Of course it's not. So we know, just based on that, we know we are meant to forgive ourselves. We know we are meant to accept all parts of ourselves, because that would be the foundation of an ever new joy, removing the judgment, removing any sense of wrongness in ourselves. So here are a few steps, very simple. If you practice them, your life's going to change. Your self-acceptance, your self-love will increase, your self-judgment will decrease. And the result of those things, opportunity upon opportunity open up in your life, in your business for change. All right, first one, accept that you are created perfectly. It can't be any other way. Even if you want to look at this in a very logical, left brain, literal, mathematical way, look at the way that nature functions when humans don't mess around there. Everything is a function, everything is a purpose, everything is supported to fulfill that function and purpose and feed life in doing so and receive life itself in doing so. It is like a perfect creation. Life begets life, even death begets life. Like when a tree falls in the forest, it feeds life, right? Its decomposing body feeds life. You are no different. You are created perfectly. You're one with that which created you, that only knows wholeness, perfection, completion. Start to see yourself like that. And this is not an intellectual task. This is like an exhale. It's a surrender into that way of seeing yourself. Practice it over and over and over until you feel it, until it starts to change you. All right, next, examine how learning really works. Meaning, we learn by making mistakes. We learn by trying and failing, and then trying again with the new data we've received through the failure or through the mistake. And through that accumulated experience, we succeed, we learn, we grow. An often cited example is when you learn to walk. You don't stand up and just walk the first time. I've never seen that. Maybe it happens. My kids didn't do it. I've never been around kids who did it. Get up, you try, you fall. Never once do you go, as far as we know, oh my God, I messed it up. Oh my God, I fell. I really messed that up. What an idiot I am. You haven't really received that program yet. You just fall. If it hurts, you cry, and then you get back up and you keep going. That's how we're intended to do life. We're intended to go have experiences. We're intended to go learn and to grow. The second shame, guilt, self-judgment comes in, the second we refuse to forgive ourselves or get past a mistake, learning and growth and evolution and expansion and abundance slow down. Be like a rocket. When a rocket is going to the moon, this is famously cited a bunch of places. Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz is one of the places you will read this. Uh, when a rocket's going to the moon, it is off course. They say like 90% of the time. So it's going, it's going there, but it's often like this, like this. And what it's doing is just correcting micro adjustments until it's right on course. Up until the very last moment, it's correcting, it's making adjustments. So if literal rocket science has mistake and adjustment built into it, why would you hold an expectation that you have to do it perfectly, that you have to understand ahead of time, that from the very jump, the very get-go, you are allowed no room for mistake or for adjustments? It just doesn't make sense. Be like a rocket, be like a rocket scientist who understands course correction and adjustment is part of the game. It just is. Lastly, prioritize joy. Ever new joy, ever growing joy is the nature of God. It's the nature of who you are. The more joy you allow yourself to experience, not because you've earned it, not because you've performed well enough and now you get to have joy. No, the more joy you allow yourself to experience in all that you do, you start to build a natural cycle of self-acceptance. I am good enough to experience joy. I am whole enough to experience joy. I am loved enough to experience joy. The more you prioritize experiencing joy, the more you become aware of your connection to God. And conversely, the more you focus on and prioritize self-judgment or holding yourself in contempt and not forgiving yourself, I would say the less aware you probably are in those moments of your connection with God, because that is not the nature of God. So the more you focus on what you've done wrong and refuse to forgive yourself, you are like isolating yourself in this very limited program and experience. The more you open up and go, all is well. There is joy for me everywhere, even in difficult moments. The more you open up to all the good that is here for you, whose baseline frequency or vibration is joy, love, freedom, very close to the vibration of joy. So this idea here is like what you focus on grows. All right, I've said a lot. I want to keep this. I thought I was going to keep it short. I did not. Self-acceptance unlocks abundance. Self-forgiveness unlocks abundance. Prioritize those two things. Go into the places in yourself where you have refused love, where you have refused to accept, where you have refused to even acknowledge. Bring those places to the light of your awareness and just hold them with kindness, hold them with forgiveness. Your life will change for the better.